Hello everyone, good morning. Hope you're able to hear me. Can somebody confirm you're able to hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Hi guys, good morning. This is Merlin from Credo Systems. Very happy to welcome you all for today's webinar. So for today's session is handled by Mr. Santosh. The topic is Microsoft Azure 104. So I request everyone to pay attention throughout the session. In the last 15 minutes, you all have the dedicated QA session for clarifying your doubts. Please stay connected throughout the session to get the participation certificate and the exciting offers. So without any further delay, hand over the session to Mr. Santosh. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for that. Yeah. Hello everyone, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. Just quickly sharing my screen. Just a minute. Yeah. Can somebody confirm you're able to see my screen? It has come up there. My screen has come up. Can somebody confirm?
No, it's not visible.
Okay, it's not visible. You're saying it's not visible. Okay, just a minute.
It's not visible, sir.
Just a minute, just a minute. Okay,
Yeah, now it's shown.
Yeah, I had to allow that. That's the thing. Okay, okay, sure. Now it's visible. Okay, got it. So let's see. Just a minute. You're able to see my presentation? You're able to see my presentation?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay, sure. That's what I want to do. Okay. So, yeah, welcome to the session and thanks for joining the session. So, my name is Santosh. Overall, I've got experience of around 13 years in IT, and I'm training the IT courses for last 3 years. So many courses I've been taking, like Linux, Azure, Terraform. Specifically in Azure, I've been taking Azure Administration, Azure Security, Azure Sentinel, right? And I have a leaning towards cybersecurity, more interest towards cybersecurity, uh, penetration testing, red teaming, uh, and these are some of my industry leading certifications that I've done. Uh, and I mean there are other certifications that are which I cannot list over here, but yeah. So with the knowledge of all these domains, right? Technology is still evolving, and the way things work, I mean, I just think that it's really good that we have learned the technologies and we know how things work. That's important. The basics are clear, right? So my other expertise is in Linux bash scripting. I've done a little bit of service now as well. So let's go to the scope of the um, webinar. Right? So we'll start with introduction to cloud computing. It could be a little bit basic, but I want to just clear out the basics a little bit for people who are not sure, who are new. So I have to have a mix of the discussion. So I thought we'll start with cloud computing. Once we are done with cloud computing, we'll move to Azure overview. What is Azure? Why Azure, etc. Market share. There are some numbers I've tried to gather for a perspective. Then we will look at the Azure administration overview. What is Azure administration is all about? Like what you will learn, what is the day in day out, like the job of an Azure administrator, and yeah. Then we will look at the demonstration of VM deployment in Azure. If we have time, we'll also go for SQL DB deployment, which is a PaaS. So one infrastructure as a service solution, one platform as a service solution, right? And then we will look at the course outline. So what we will, when we look at the broader course curriculum, what we will be learning, right? So the course exactly matches AZ-104 curriculum that is prescribed by, or that's what Microsoft says. So it's exactly matches with that and up to date, right? Two things. One is the course is up to date. The other thing is it exactly matches what Microsoft says and uh, closely aligning with the exam topics and exam uh, content. Then branching out, right? So now people might think, okay, after Azure administration, now what to do next, right? So you might also have a chance to look at Terraform deployment. I'll try to show you Terraform deployment as well using Terraform core, how you can deploy the resources. That's possible, right? So people might be, okay, you might think, okay, after Azure administration, should I go towards Azure Security? That's up to you. That's up to the individuals where they want to go. But I want to give a little taste of or little sneak peek of branching out to Terraform. I mean, don't want to get into Azure Security directly, but going to a different perspective of cloud automation, right? So you will get to see that as well. And finally, of course, we'll have the Q&A session as well. Or you can generally ask me anything. It's up to you. Like related to the topic, not related to the topic, general career question, anything is fine. Right. So quickly moving on to the slide. First topic, intro to cloud computing. So what is cloud computing, right? So in simple terms, your workload or your application is
Alexa,
running.
stop.
Sorry. Yeah. So it's your application running in somebody else's data center, right? So who is that somebody? It's either Azure, AWS, or GCP. So they have built the data centers across the regions throughout the world globally, and the data centers have the machines and all these applications, PaaS service, infrastructure as a service, whatever you call that cloud service model. They based on that, the machines run and they run these applications, right? So traditionally, the organizations will own their IT, or they will, of course, some organizations they will outsource the data center capabilities. So they will retain that with them, but because of the cloud emerging cloud technologies or evolution of cloud computing, this is shift is being made from DCs to the cloud, right? If not full, it's hybrid. So part is with my own data center. Let's say when I say my organization, so organization, there's some workload, some machines are running in their own data centers. Some the organizations will move to cloud. So depending upon what is the cloud migration strategy, they could move 50%, they could move 40%, 60%, based on some logic or based on some considerations that they have. Right? Now, quick question: why cloud computing? Why do we need cloud computing? Right? So, of course, you have the advantages over here: cost saving, flexibility. So, the main attraction, the main motivation is availability, reliability, scalability. These three are, and deployment of resources on demand, right? Whenever you need, you deploy or you create the resources. When you don't need, you just delete them. So you are charged only for the usage, right? Very simple. We have broadband in our home, or we have uh, uh, electricity. We don't generate the electricity, right? Or we don't participate in the infrastructure. We only pay for what we use, right? So that is what cloud computing. And if I want to give an analogy, that's the analogy, right? So it has cost saving. The overhead of managing the infrastructure from ground up is partially moved to the cloud solution provider. When I say cloud solution provider, it's Azure, AWS, or GCP, CSPs. I say CSP or cloud solution provider or cloud provider, it's all the same, indicating the same thing, right? Broader advantages, again, you get to do a better governance, better visibility of your infrastructure, lesser overhead of your management of your infrastructure, uh, a huge cost saving. Now, earlier, if you look at traditional data centers, you'll have separate teams. You'll have network team, you'll have Windows team, Linux team, etc. Now, you can shrink this team. You can just have 1, 2, or 3 teams these days and manage the the cloud. The cloud management can be done by one broader team, and you can just have like people dedicated. Now, the job has become simple. Of course, there are complicated things which are there, but whatever traditionally we've been doing, it has become simpler these days, right? Deployment has become simpler. Configuration management has become simpler. Yeah. And then the market share, if you look at the market share of the Azure, it's around 24% here and there, uh, trailing behind AWS, and rest plus GCP around 45%, right? So the market share between Azure and AWS is kind of, the gap is closing. Overall, if you look at from 2013 or 14, when they from the idea of from the inception of cloud idea or Azure idea for Microsoft, they have been like there have been strides, strides in the market share. They've been reaching a height, new heights every time, every year on year. So Azure has around, I have seen around some million customers, small, medium businesses, large businesses, right? So yeah, so that is about the market share, right? Now looking at the cloud adoption framework, right? So this is common across the cloud solution providers. That this is what an organization will plan uh, if they were to move to cloud, or they were to move part of the infrastructure to cloud, right? Which is define. Define the reason why do you want to move to cloud? What is the reason for moving to cloud? Is it cost saving? Is it ease of management? Right? So there are multiple thinking on the strategy, right? Then you go for planning. So how do you plan? How do you plan the move? Uh, do you have the skills ready? Have you understood the cloud adoption plan? The various teams that you have to keep ready, right? So you need to have a cloud governance team that's going to look up the the cost factors, very important, right? The skills factor, the from a security standpoint, how we are going to look at the cloud, etc. That's going to be in the planning phase. Now ready is where you are ready to start migrating to cloud. How do you want to do? So ready is where you define the how are we going to migrate, right? So what is the strategy? There is something called landing zone concept. Landing zone is just a a complete picture of your applications, your infrastructure. It's a complete picture of your infrastructure in terms of Azure, like VMs, web apps, database, etc. That's what you do in ready phase. Then you adopt. Adopt is where you migrate. You do the actual migration of the application, right? You do migration assessments. What is a migration assessment? You install something in your VMware uh, servers, VMware ESXi servers or Hyper-V servers in your on-prem, and you assess using that tool. You assess how many machines you have in your on-prem and what do you need in Azure to migrate. That's what, at a very high level, that's what the migration assessment tool will do. It's called Azure Migrate Assessment. So once it understands, okay, this is what you need in Azure, you can go ahead and deploy those resources. Then comes secure, very important, right? You have to secure the cloud, put monitoring in place, proper monitoring in place, policies in place. You can use Azure policies to secure, to prevent something which is not according to the policy. You can prevent something from happening. So that's secure. Then you manage the cloud operations maturity, operations baseline. Like this is where the operations come. The operations team will come. They will look at issues, outstanding issues, incoming issues, new issues, or new ideas they will implement in Azure. And finally, governance is an overall like function. You will look at how I'm performing, how I need to perform, policy, compliance, what is working, what is not working, etc. So this is a high level, very high level of your cloud adoption framework. Right? Looking at the overlapping rings over here, overlapping circles. 69% of the customers are using hybrid. So that means there is a cloud component in that. 3% is just private cloud. Okay. So 69% has a mix of cloud and hybrid, right? Public, hybrid, and private. What is hybrid? Hybrid means that it's a combination of your cloud plus on-prem. That's hybrid, right? Public meaning it's just public means that you are 100% utilizing the cloud. There's no on-prem infrastructure you have. You just have public cloud. So public cloud meaning anybody can just go ahead and use the cloud. That's called public cloud. It's a cloud deployment model. It's called cloud deployment model. There are 5 cloud deployment models: public, private, hybrid, multi, community. Community cloud, hybrid cloud, private cloud, public cloud, multi-cloud. So private cloud, on the think of private cloud equivalent to your own data center. So you use your own data center for your purpose. You don't, there's no other organization that can come in, right? Because this is dedicated for you, right? That's one view of private cloud. The other view is just a cloud infrastructure dedicated for an organization. So of course, Microsoft owns Azure. So Azure, part of Azure will, of course, Microsoft will leverage the cloud for their purpose. That is private cloud for them. So private cloud is only for a particular organization. Public means that it's available for anybody to go ahead and start using, right? Hybrid is a combination of cloud plus on-prem, right? And that's where organizations are moving towards, right? Hybrid gives, now question might come, okay, why hybrid? Why only hybrid? The reason is that, it gives a flexibility of cost, gives a flexibility of management of the resources. That's the only reason. Reasons or why the companies go for hybrid solution or hybrid cloud. Now, just some numbers here. Percentage of companies at 64%, they say use only Azure. If they're using Azure, they're only using Azure. And if you look at like the percentage of Azure companies in each spend level, like 78% are tiny spend, 16%, 5% small, medium, and large. Around like 3 lakh plus 3,40,000 plus companies are using Azure, right? And it's growing. It's growing. The year-on-year growth, if you look at the year-on-year growth of Azure, it's a very good. It's a little bit steep, right? And if you look at around 3,44,000 customers for Azure, right? Just moving on to Azure overview, right? Azure has globally so many regions. There's a huge count of regions, and within those regions, there are data centers. So we know that. So they own the data centers, and there is a peculiar way of management of data centers. Microsoft does a very good job in ensuring that they follow all environment sustainable practices for maintaining the DCs. So the power to the DC, the cooling to the DC, they all use greener technologies to power up their DCs, right? They have a very good pairing of the data center. So one data center has a big problem, the other data center will help you with the with the resources or with the VMs, right? So each region will have some features or products like availability zones, availability sets, disaster recovery. So each region, so it's a very, very important consideration for deploying the resources. From a design perspective, regions are very, very important. From a cost perspective, from a product perspective, product per region, right? If I were to say what is the most important thing that you want to one important consideration for Azure deployment, I would say region, right? Because that's where the requirements are. Based on the regions, there are sizes of the VM, availability of the sizes of the VM. Based on the regions, the disaster recovery or whatever products are available. So based on the region, the cost varies, right? So regions are very, very important. And there are plethora of services. There are so much services available in cloud service models like platform as a service, infrastructure as a service. So infrastructure as a service is just the VMs that we deploy, and platform as a service is you focus on the development aspect. You don't worry. We don't worry about the underlying machines, because underlying machines is taken care by the Microsoft, by Azure. We don't have to worry. We only are concerned about the service itself, right? We focus on deployment. We focus on development. We don't worry about the VMs. We don't have to worry about the VM patching. We don't have to worry about the VM configurations. We don't have to worry about the frameworks. We choose the framework. Azure deploys the VM in the background. It's abstracted away from our view. And I'm talking about in case of PaaS. In case of infrastructure as a service, as a customer, I deploy the VM. I take care of everything end to end. Right? Now, this is also important considerations. What do you want to deploy? Is it platform as a service, or is it infrastructure as a service? There are multiple considerations, sub considerations. There could be a cost. Based on the cost, you want to go for PaaS or infrastructure as a service, or based on the level of flexibility. Infrastructure as a service gives you a good flexibility because you have access to the underlying VM. You can tweak the VM for your to your advantage, right? So PaaS, on the other hand, you don't get to touch the underlying VM, but of course you have high level tweaking or high level configuration of the VMs and apps. And of course, the new services are getting onboarded. New features are added to the to Azure, right? And you have security built in, right? The security is built in. They have Entra ID, which is Microsoft or Azure AD, as a main pillar of security for identities. They have enforced MFA. They have Sentinel. There are many security features built in. They, for almost all the resources, they have a firewall, layer 3, layer 4 firewall enabled, right? So you also have a good cost clarity and transparency. We will maybe see, if possible, we'll see cost management in Azure. Each subscription, you can see what is the cost incurred and how much you can expect. It also provides you a projection of cost. And of course, it's constantly evolving. New things are coming in, old things are going out. They do keep a constant analysis of the usage of resources or make things better, right? So from a governance perspective, you have you have tools available. You have um, tax, you have cost management as well. You have policies, you have blueprints. Uh, there are many governance tools you can use to, uh, monitor the Azure infrastructure, right? Azure administration overall, an Azure administrator will be working on these 5 broader domains within Azure, right? Compute services, Entra ID, storage services, monitoring and maintaining the resources, networking. So it's not a full networking, but almost most of the things, like you have in networking, you have VNets, VNet peering, app gateway, load balancers, right? there are many networking components or features, services out there. In compute services, you have the VMs, the main uh, focus area. You have containers, Kubernetes. In compute, you also have web apps, right? Compute, Kubernetes, web apps, containers, Kubernetes, web apps are platform as a service. Just VMs is infrastructure as a service. Then comes your intra ID. Intra ID is where you will deal with the users, groups, application management, application objects, interface applications, MFA, self-service password reset, security defaults, very important conditional access policy, privileged identity management. You have continuous access evaluation. You have intra ID protection. You have intra ID governance, access reviews. There are many that we do as an Azure administrator. Then storage services, storage accounts, mainly it's storage accounts, but you will also touch on SQL DB, Cosmos DB, MySQL DB, mostly PaaS. Storage services, mostly it's a PaaS solution, platform as a service. Monitoring, managing and maintaining the resources, the backups, the disaster recovery, planning for the resources, and how do you monitor, how do you deploy maybe Sentinel. Sentinel is a little bit advanced topic for administrator, but still. Okay. And then, as of course, Azure networking, you have routing solutions like App Gateway. You
Excuse
have,
me, sir.
yeah,
Yes,
The
sir.
screen is
Are you
not
sharing
visible,
it?
sir.
yeah, I am
Yeah,
sharing.
but it's not visible for the past few minutes.
Okay, let me share. Thank you for.
Yeah, it's not visible.
Yeah, sure. Is it visible?
Yes, sir.
Okay, let me not go into
Yes.
presentation mode. I think if I go in presentation mode, it's not coming up. That's okay. So did you guys see slide number 7? This one you saw, right?
Yes.
Okay, sure. Thank you. Okay, in this slide, I was just explaining about the compute services, platform as a service, infrastructure as a service in compute, like VMs, containers, Kubernetes, web
Sir, still
apps.
not visible, sir.
Still not visible, but somebody said yes.
For us, it's visible.
Okay. Okay, it's visible, right? I think.
Yes, sir. For me, it is
Oh.
visible.
Okay. Sure. Let me do one thing, guys. Let me share the entire screen. Just give me 1 minute. Okay, I did select entire screen. Is it visible now? Somebody confirm?
Not
Are you
visible,
Yes,
seeing?
sir.
visible.
Yes.
Okay, sure. Maybe you have some problem. Maybe just check that.
Yeah, it's visible now.
Okay, okay, thank you. Good, thank you. Yeah, so we were discussing about what an Azure administrator should have as a skill set or as a knowledge to work in Azure. Compute services, Entra ID overview, storage services, monitoring and maintaining the resources, Azure networking. Azure networking, we will be looking at VNet peering, DNS setting at VNet level, app gateway, load balancer, P2S VPN, S2S VPN, express route, Azure virtual WAN. Um, yeah, so these are the resources that we'll be looking at in Azure networking. So overall, this is what an Azure administrator will do and needs to know for the job, right? Also, the Azure administration, uh, it helps you move to different learning paths in Azure. If you want to go to security, and if you're done with Azure administration, then think that you're done with almost 50% of the security knowledge, right? Then comes your DevOps. If you have done Azure administration, then understand that 40% you're done with Azure DevOps. 60% is just what you're going to focus on new things, right? Similarly, Azure administration and think of data engineer, right? 30% you're done with the knowledge what you've already got. So you're going to put only 70% or 60% of the effort there to learn extra topics. So Azure administration serves as a basic. I mean, it's fundamentals that basic, but still, I would say Azure administration is the basic thing to move Azure, move to Azure. Either you want to go depth or go breadth. Also, you can branch out to other technologies like cloud automation. You can get into cloud security. Yeah. Okay. So quickly, I am just going to share the demonstration of your deployment of VM in Azure. Okay, I'm going to show you how to do that, how we deploy a VM, and I'll also show you to connect to the VM. Right. So let me go ahead and create a VM. This is how you create a VM. So go ahead and click create, and VM. Now, how I got this option, virtual machine? Just go in search, just type virtual, just type virtual machine. You will get this. Go ahead and create. Select a resource group. Always, this is important. Selecting a resource group, selecting a subscription. Let me deploy Windows VM. You should always select a region. No infrastructure redundancy required. No security type required. I'm just keeping it all simple. I'm going to deploy a Windows Server 2019. Let me deploy standard V2S, very low cost. So, and I'm going to provide the default, I mean not default, but you have to provide a username and password for the initial login. And this username is going to be your administrator account. And you also select the disks. What is the disk type that you need? What is the size of the disk you need? What is the encryption scheme that you need? Do you want additional disks as data disks? That's what we decide at this stage. In the networking, we decide about which VNet we want to deploy this machine onto, which subnet within that VNet we want to host this VM. Do we need to create a public IP? In this case, I'm going to create a public IP because I want to log into the machine. And do you want network security group? Delete the public IP and NIC when the VM is deleted. So do you want load balancing? All this design requirements consideration we will do for networking at this stage, and then go to management. Management is about how do you manage the VM? Do you want Entra login as well? You want to enable Microsoft Entra login. You can set auto shutdown. You can enable backup. You can enable site recovery at this stage. You can go to monitoring. You can enable some rules, some basic rules at this stage. You can also enable something called a boot diagnostic storage account to enable boot diagnostics. So when your machine boots up, the logs are captured. If you are enabling this, the logs will be captured. If not, the logs will not be captured. And you can say advanced. If you want to deploy some applications during the deploy time of the VM, you can enable something called extensions. You can also pass in some scripts in custom data. And finally, you can review and create. I'm going high level, but we'll spend at least one session, 1 hour session for each of these options. And finally, you can create. So it takes about 2 to 3 minutes to create a VM. And this much ease it is to create a VM. And this is infrastructure. This is an example of infrastructure as service. Okay. So yeah. So deployment takes some time. So each of the dependent resources will be first created, and only then the VM will be created. If you look at NSG deploys, so these three are dependent. before the VM is created. So that's why these resources are deployed first and then the actual VM is deployed. Just keep that in mind. If you're moving to cloud automation, this sequence is important. What is first deployed, what is deployed, what is dependent on what, you should have an idea. Let me go to the VM list and I see that this VM is getting created. Let me copy and try to log into the VM. So it's still taking time, not yet deployed. So if you see, the deployment is still in progress. But yeah, it will take a minute to complete the deployment. So once this process stops, we can just log into the machine and through RDP and work on it. Still no, still going on. Let's wait. SQLDB, just type SQL in the search. You have SQL database. Now this is an example of PaaS. The SQLDB that you see is an example of PaaS. One database you can deploy behind the scenes. Azure will deploy the server. Azure will deploy the SQL engine on that server, and you can start using the database directly. Okay? So this is an example of a platform as a service, fully managed relational database service, perfect for accelerating application development and simplifying the management tasks. Let me log into the server as of now. I think I've got the prompt, and here, there you go. So we have got the public IP, and we are logging into the VM, Windows VM. Yeah. So yeah, that's mostly about the demonstration and deployment. And this is our course outline. Okay. So we have quite a good number of lab demonstrations, examples. You will also get the assignments, and you'll have to complete the assignments. And then what this course prepares you, that's important, right? So what is the outcome you can get? Takeaway, think of takeaways from the course. You can prepare, this course prepares you for AZ 104 exam. You can of course see the real-time Azure administration, how we have to do, how we can do, a lot of options you can see, and it helps you with the journey towards other. If you are, let's say, after 1 year or 2 years, of course you'll have to learn and unlearn. You learn Azure, and if you want to move towards AWS or GCP, you can always go for it. The terms are different. The working of cloud is almost the same, right? The services could be additional. The way things works could be little different, but the concept is same. And it also prepares you to take up your journey into Azure Cloud. So if you want to go deeper into Azure Cloud, this course really helps you. Also, if you want to move out to Terraform, you can use this knowledge and move to other stream of cloud governance, cloud automation, etc. Right? So this is the course outline. And if you want to, like, specifically, I want to call out this one example of, moving from administration to what next. So Terraform, you can choose Terraform. Terraform is a very good thing, very good IAC tool to start with. So ideal learning if you want to go deeper or upskill yourself, Terraform would be a good choice. Okay, so I'm just opening the Terraform files. Right? So this is how you create the Terraform. These are the Terraform configuration files. You put in the modules or files to create the resource. So before I was showing you the sequence of creation of VM. Right? First, NSG is created, interface is created, and public IP is created, then the VM is created. That's exactly what is going on over here. So you have the network interface that's getting created. You have the VM created, but this depends on the network interface that is getting created. This depends on the VM, VNet, etc. Okay, so this is the Terraform code. All right. Yeah. So questions, Q&A, ask me anything. Ask me anything you have. Or if you want me to go back to any slides and explain, I can explain. Any questions anybody has, anything that you want to ask, you can ask and let me know. Any questions, team? Or do you have some expectations from the course after you join? Charges, just check with Credo Systemz team. They will be able to help you. Please contact Credo Systemz team. Okay, sure. Not able to understand, Vinay. .NET Entity Framework not clear. Can you speak up? I think you can unmute yourself and talk.
As a part of DevOps or as a part of the cloud operations, the migration services, which is the bread and butter and the key niche of Azure, are you also covering the .NET Entity Framework, which is basically from code to database or database to code automatically, or migrating the old things to the new, so that you can use it as data engineers, or you can use it for data modeling, or you can, one of the things which Google does best and Azure is good at, but is not exploring.
No, we'll not cover .NET because that's more towards DevOps. This course is geared towards Azure administration of your Azure environment. I can explain migration in just 1 hour. That I can do as an additional topic. I can explain how things work. I can give you examples of that. That I can do. Azure migration. So I can explain how to plan for migration, how migration is done in real time, migration to servers, web apps, and databases. I can explain.
Yeah, basically the licensing cost becomes, one of the driving factor for us Indians. The price, we are very price sensitive people. So when we go out and put a solution which we will adopt rather than the ones which the other countries would adopt, then bringing in the MS SQL server into maybe some another SQL database, migrating that or finding a framework for doing that, that can reduce, or maybe from Windows OS to Linux OS data with database, that can reduce the licensing cost, and that makes the solution overall viable for us.
Yeah, that's right. That's again, that's a design time discussion. So that's correct. You're right. So licensing costs are an important driving factor. That's right. But yeah, you have something called pricing calculator. You can use that to figure out what is the estimate that you're getting based on usage of your. See, it's like you're changing the architecture. You can do, but given that you have everything easy to switch. Yeah. So our sessions are like Azure pure administration geared towards exam one view is getting the exam clearing the exam or attempting the exam. The other thing is general Azure administration knowledge. If you're put as Azure administrator, what will you expect in the system? That's another thing. Yeah, that's where this
So one
course
of
is
the
geared.
KPIs could be how do administrator increase the number of servers managed by one person, or maybe how do an administrator manage the storage as well as network as well as the compute.
Mhm.
You know, so that would be the KPI for an administrator. So something to improve the efficiency on that side would really be helpful.
Yeah,
How,
correct.
how can a single
You
person
have Terraform cloud automation, utilize cloud automation tools, uh, deploy policies.
standard templates to standardize certain things
Yeah,
like
correct.
security hardening or
Yeah. Again,
deploying.
correct. You are right. We have CS benchmark controls. We have many things out there. You have to define. You have to plan that. You have to bring them as a code, reusable code. Deploy modules. Let the teams just use the modules, not their own code, to deploy the VMs, deploy the resources. So yeah, it's a planning. So I was showing
Azure has
you.
huge
I was
potential.
showing. Sorry.
Azure has huge potential because of the integration of the .NET or the development along with the infrastructure administration. So even for an administrator, if you take a business scenario and then solve a administrative challenge, that suppose if, for example, e-commerce website, or for example, let us say CRM, or let us say, for example, different data patterns, whatever you can think of, or maybe a notification service kind of environment. How does an administrator improve his KPIs to do the Azure administration? Those things can really bring in business for us.
That's right. Yeah. True.
That's all I wanted to share and ask. Thank you.
Yeah,
Cool.
sure. I mean, it comes with the practice. You are on the job. First day, okay, you are new. Second day, fine. Third day, okay, good. 1 month goes, 2 month goes. From third month onwards, an efficient resource, an associate should think of how do I automate things? How do I do things better? Use Python, use Terraform. Some things can be done with Python. Some things can be done with Terraform. Some of the activities can be done using Ansible. So you have to have a like distinction of what to do when. So skill set planning.
That will mean that an administrator has to understand what is the data structure of the objects that he's trying to configure. So just by manually configuring or automating few things, there cannot be a continuity. He will do it in bits and pieces. But for an administrator, if he understands the data structure of the LDAP, or he understands the data structure of the network services, and then he creates a continuity plan, and then if I do this much, then 10 people should be doing these things. That kind of things, if we are able to do, then the then we can have a KPI, which, you know,
Yeah.
And since I come from a training background a long back, so that's the way I think, you know, rather than official curriculum for India, if the initiative has to be from India, then I think those KPIs are the ones that the training center should drive. And as a part of that KPIs, this certification would be just a small achievement that anyone can do. That should be the training approach.
Okay. Sure. Okay, anybody has any questions? Point noted, Vinay. I'll talk to Credo Systemz about that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody has any questions? We have some time left.
So if you guys have any questions,
And this is the VM I just deployed for your information. Hope you're able to have seen my screen. This is the VM deployed in your blog deployed. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, if you have questions, we can discuss. Otherwise, talk to Credo Systemz about your requirement. And you can also reach me. You can get my contact email from them. You can directly reach me for questions, comments. Okay. Okay. So Marilyn, I think we can drop off, Marilyn. Or
okay, sir. Okay, thank you.
okay. Okay. Thanks, everyone. Have a good day. Bye bye.
Okay, okay. Thank you for sharing your knowledge, Mr. Santosh.
Sure.
Thank you everyone for joining the session today. Please provide your valuable feedback to get the participation certificate. Those who are not joined, please join the WhatsApp group to get the recordings. The offer is displaying the screen, right? If you guys see the image, this is the offer only for webinar joiners. The training price is 2,000 rupees. Only for webinar joiners, we offer it for 14,999. This offer is valid only for 2 days. If you guys like to join, please fill the form or you guys contact the team. The number is in the screen. Only who fill the form will get the participation certificate. If you guys have any questions regarding to the offer, please contact us. If you guys need any details related to career development or course, please feel free to contact us. Our details are shared in the chat. We have planning to do series of webinar in the upcoming days. So stay connected and stay tuned, guys. Thank you.
Thank you all. Bye.
Thank you. Thank you, sir.